Ready?
Let's do it. Welcome back to the second half.
You know what I did? I went and grabbed a water and I left it on the counter. Woo!
Oh my gosh, you're going to... This is
I didn't even take a
so
sip.
important to mention in the beginning of the second show.
Well, you were worried about your lighting, and I got all in my head about lighting.
I know.
But you got a glass of wine in.
I have not.
Shots, tequila shots. We did.
We should do that mid-show. So
That'll be the third half.
Our first 20.
How many halves are we going to do today?
Yeah. Our first 20-some shows, we always had a glass of wine.
Yeah, because we usually did them in the afternoon.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
So it was like halfway through, it was like 1 glass of wine.
Man, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
Yeah,
We'll do the third half later this afternoon.
That's right.
We'll have you back for an afternoon evening show.
Count me in.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not doing it for any good reason, but it's just been this.
I think we were trying to get you in before the end of December.
And we have a very busy day the rest of the day. I can't start my day at this point. It's not Sunday or Saturday. So anyway, second half, here we are. Arizona, you grew up there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you like that? I mean, do you miss it? I don't know much.
So this is a tough one because we're going to get personal and I'm going to get vulnerable. And
That's
my
okay.
mom's going to watch the episode and be like, that's why you moved?
What's your mom's name?
Debbie.
Debbie.
Well, that's
Debbie.
a good old lady's name.
I would love to come visit Debbie. I
that she's
love
old.
Phoenix.
Well, she lives in Florida now. We gave my parents permission to move when we took the grandbabies.
What?
Where did they move to?
Dad and his wife live in New Jersey, and my mom and her husband live in South Florida.
South Florida, like Marco Island or
Delray Beach.
Delray. Nice.
Yeah.
So Phoenix, where'd you go to school in Phoenix?
Graduated in Mesa, Arizona from Dobson High School. Eventually made my way to ASU.
Okay.
Go Sun Devils. And met my wife 20-ish years ago and decided to move here about a dozen years ago.
Is she from Arizona as well?
Born and raised.
So both of you are Arizonans.
You came up to the frozen tundra.
It's 61 degrees right now.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I mean, tomorrow it could be snowing, but all things considered,
Also could be
that's
90
very
degrees tomorrow.
optimistic of you.
8 months out of the year, we like it. It's, I would say, the inverse of what we expected. Our idea was there were going to be 4 months like Phoenix that you just sort of stay indoors. And what we have realized is there's only about 4 days people stay indoors, right? 60 below with the wind chill, no one's going outside.
Yeah.
Otherwise, put on a coat, put on some gloves, put on a beanie, and go enjoy.
It's not that bad.
It really isn't.
You can
It's
dress
lovely,
for the
actually.
cold. You can't undo the heat.
I mean, some do, but
Yeah.
I started years ago. So I've been married 22 years to Forrest. And before that, I think I started getting itchy about the winters, right? Like I grew up here.
Like you didn't
I
want to
should be
live
used
here.
to it. I was like, oh, the grass is greener, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, you just need to embrace winter. So we bought snowmobiles and we live on a lake. We do a skating rink and we do a big ice castle event and we do
course you do.
snowshoeing and like we do all the winter downhill
just
skiing.
embrace it.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this
This
not
isn't so bad.
Yeah, and so ever since I've been, there are parts of the winter that I've been really enjoying. I also like leaving the winter and like, what I love
going
the
on the-
best
like-
is when it's like 20 below or even 0. Okay, I'll take 0. And you get on a plane and then you get off a plane
In
and
Phoenix,
somewhere like
80, 85
hot
degrees.
and sweaty. I mean, that juxtaposition between it being frozen cold and you're freezing all the way and then
Yeah.
you get off and you're like, oh, this is
It's
so
the getting
amazing.
back that's a little weird.
I know, it is true. Yeah, it is true.
Yeah.
I think the worst part of, we aren't even talking about what we're going to talk about, but the worst part of winter, summer, Midwest living is spring.
The sludge.
The sludge. It's just so ugly.
So you made me think of the travel, though, because in January, I'll go to Phoenix or Florida or somewhere warm, and I'll carry my jacket on the plane because I needed it when I was still in Minnesota.
Right.
Then by the time I get back, I'll have to put the coat back on. The worst one is when I think, well, it's not that cold today. I can get on the plane without a coat. I'll be fine. And then you get back and there's, 4 feet of snow on the ground and You got to clear
Didn't put
your
a coat in
car,
your
and I
car.
didn't have a coat. Or
There's no
worse, I left
shovel.
it in the car, which means it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
only ever cold for the first 2-3 weeks of like late fall, early winter.
Yeah.
Then after that, once you get acclimatized to it or whatever, I'm like,
I go
It's
as
fine.
long as I can without a coat.
Oh, yeah.
As long as I
100%.
can without
Yeah.
a coat. And then I'll put a coat and I'll wear it for
just
the rest of the
embrace
winter.
it.
But if I can do that, then I somehow build up tolerance.
Yeah.
so what
Yeah.
have we taught our budding entrepreneurs here in the last 10 minutes? Second half, what have we taught them?
Just embrace where you are.
Embrace the
Embrace
thing.
where you are.
I
like
listened.
it.
I listened to one of your
That's good.
podcasts.
You
Yes,
did?
I did. It was pretty good.
Oh yeah? Who was on it?
It was just the two of you. I think it was called
it
a
was
couch conversation.
Conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
What was so intriguing to me, and going back to what we talked about in the first half, this idea of we still have bills, we still have a family to feed. What Cameron brought, you guys were talking about business partners.
Oh.
And Cameron and I have known each other about 10 years. We've had the opportunity to be competitors, we've had the opportunity to work together. I started the marketplace / consulting firm a few months ahead of him doing the same. Then we got together to try and figure out, did 1 + 1 equal 2?
Right.
Or did 1 + 1 equal something greater? And initially the idea was, it doesn't really do anything for us to partner together. But when we finally came together, he's really skilled in areas that I'm really not
Right.
skilled.
Right.
But the inverse of that, going back to we've got bills to pay and things like that, is we built a business plan together. And there were 4 core tenets to the services and the offering that we had until I had bills to pay or until he had bills to pay. When a customer says, hey, we don't need these things, but what about this other thing that you guys could do?
Yeah.
And having someone to bounce ideas off and say, that's a lot of money. We should,
Because we got bills to pay.
We got bills to pay.
This isn't what we initially set out to do, nor even what we like scoped out as things we could do, offer.
But what Cameron brought to the table, one of the many things that he brings is this, okay, pause.
Yeah.
Yes, we can make a lot of money doing that. Does that change fundamentally the business that we're doing? And if so, that might be okay. Like we set out to own this consulting firm, we may end up owning like a dog food company.
Right.
The end goal is to make a bunch of money.
Right.
Right.
But does this one thing deviate us from our focus and take us off our focus? And if so, maybe we need to say no.
Yeah. Do we say no because we've got a path here, or do we say yes and then maybe this is the path and that one dies, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think thus far we've stayed pretty true to the course that we set out.
Yeah.
But there are definitely things coming our way where we have to pivot and say, okay, is this a thing we want to do going forward? Maybe our clients thought of a product that we hadn't thought of yet. Maybe they're ahead of us on that journey.
I mean, if a client can offer you a suggestion for something that they would like you to build for them and they'd pay you for that, that's got to be nice.
Oh, yeah.
How much do you use? I'm a big visualization sort of person, right? Manifesting, and a lot. I think that used to feel very woo-woo to some people.
I'm not even going to look. I'm not even going to acknowledge it.
I'm only half woo. We've talked about this.
And so,
she's woo. I'm just woo.
Well, there's a brain function in manifesting too.
Yeah.
I mean, there is, if you keep your eye on the thing that you want, if you feel it now, all of that, you notice the signs that will help you get there. And usually those things are not things you'd notice otherwise because you didn't have that visualization. You didn't have that, I'm going here. And I have found in all the times where I'm like, well, I wish I had more sales in this business. I wish I had more X in this business or Y in this business. And I have to go back to that, what I'm trying to manifest.
Yeah.
And that even saying trying to manifest is another block, right? What I'm manifesting.
Yeah.
And continue to feel it and to see the signs. And sometimes, we talk about it being, you have to take risks to be successful as an entrepreneur. I just talked about this in a panel presentation the other day, and it's like, well, why does risk feel so hard? Is it because we think we're reckless? Are we afraid of being reckless? Are we afraid of throwing everything away for this risk? Yeah, I think that is part of it, right? So calculated, maybe, making sure all the things are in order, but still manifesting, still taking a risk.
I'm all about visualizing success and visualizing the future. I think a lot of what you're talking, though, is imposter syndrome.
Oh, for sure.
We've all sat in a room and it's like, oh, does he have any idea that I have no idea how to do this? Meanwhile, you're the most qualified person, period, constant. To do it, whether it be starting a podcast or writing a book or owning a business. There's a reason you went out to do it. The LED guy from the book I was referencing.
You didn't finish that, yeah.
He figured it out.
Okay, so he started Oklahoma LED, not knowing anything about LED lighting.
He wanted to employ a bunch of people and serve them really well.
Okay.
And lighting felt like a good industry that was just moving from where it was to LED and all these new things. And he thought, I got into the other business this way. We'll just start a business and I'll learn. What Cameron and I have taken on in this marketplace is something we've never done. We have industry experience that says we're going to be successful. I've got cameras galore at my home office. I've got video equipment and audio equipment.
To do your podcast?
Well, to do the podcast and the masterclass. I've never edited anything other than audio.
Yeah.
But now I'm knee deep in editing these videos because I'm going to charge a monthly subscription to teach people how to do what took me 25 years to learn.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I figured it out because I manifested it or I visualized it. But those moments where I think they have no idea that I have no idea.
Yeah.
Truth is, probably for everybody watching this, you're more qualified, A, than you think you are, which is what got you a seat at the table, which is what got someone to pick up the phone and call. So, we're all there for a reason. The only way we're going to be successful. And there are definitely times we shouldn't be in the room. Let's acknowledge that too. Yeah. And embrace it and learn from it and say, okay, I've got a buddy, Jake Brown. Jake's a brilliant mind. He's got this idea called failing forward, or Ryan Leake calls it chasing failure.
Yep.
I might not be the smartest kid in the room, but I'm in the room for a reason and I can add value. And then learning from, okay, that meeting definitely didn't go as I'd planned. What can I learn from it and how can I improve?
Right.
Exactly. I feel like people think, well, if I keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, I'll win. And that is there a time when I just say, this is not working? Is there a time?
I've got a heck of a support system. I have an insanely supportive wife who has allowed me to take some risks on behalf of the family to give entrepreneurship a go. When push comes to shove, we all have bills.
Yeah.
We've all heard the stories, right? I foreclosed and I filed bankruptcy and all that. Some of it comes down to what is your tolerance for risk. I think the right approach is having the conversation early. Hey, honey, I think I'm going to start a business. That means we're not going to eat anything but ramen for a year. It probably means that we're going to have to sell the house. Maybe it means we get rid of one of the cars. Whatever it means, having the conversation and writing it down. So it's not that he said, she said, well, you never told me we were going to get here. I've got a guy that I met in Arizona through a mutual friend. I was just out there a couple weeks ago. We had coffee together. He's trying to become a financial planner.
Yeah.
He's gotten his license, but he's not doing the right things to be successful. Sorry.
What would those things be?
I don't think he's picking up the phone. He doesn't have a contact list. He's not following up. He doesn't have a CRM. Like all of the things that you need to be successful. CRM is free. Zoho and HubSpot and all these, they start out for free. But if you don't, I had to have the conversation with my wife. We had to agree on our tolerance for risk. And then I had to have a business plan that gave me a thing to do every day. I know that I've got to call clients. I know that when I get in the car, I've got to call my business partner and have a conversation about A, B, and C, because these are things we've agreed that we would talk about as soon as they arose. If I'm not following the agreed on risk tolerance that my wife and I have together, or if I'm not following the business plan, I'm probably going to fail, and then I got to go find a job.
I'm trying to learn.
We got to set the stage
my wife
early.
and I never had those conversations, but when we married 22 years ago, I was already that. Like it wasn't like I had a corporate job and said, I think I'm going to try this other thing.
Yeah.
I've always been working for myself.
Yeah.
So it was like signed up on day one. You can't get away from it.
I will say that entrepreneurship, the thing that I've learned this go around is entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
It's not.
It's really friggin' hard. It'll raise your blood pressure. You don't know where the checks are coming from or when they're coming. Your collections, which I did yesterday, your accounts receivable, accounts payable, your invoicing.
It's tough.
Your everything.
It's like you're high-fiving 1 minute, and then all of a sudden, 5
Laying on the
minutes
floor
later,
crying.
you're crying. And it's like, it is a zigzag approach to winning. And, I would say the edge, what is the edge, right? What is the edge? Because there's so many people who will once you hit too many of those downs, you're done. And your spouse and your family are like, you're done.
Yeah.
So how can we, I don't even know how to share a story about that, because I have had success by persevering even when everything seemed not okay.
I mean, I bank on that quite a bit. Is that in my interpretation of entrepreneurship, and I haven't talked about canoe trips in a long time, but it's sort of this if you set out on a journey and the destination is out here somewhere and you're your only set of resources, really, maybe you have a team with you, you have things you brought, you can find some resources along the way, but in the end, you're going to get here and you have to set your mind to that.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, it can be awful some days, but you get up the next day and you keep heading toward that end destination.
I'm not going to fail. It goes back to what we talked about with manifesting or visualizing. I'm
already successful.
I'm already successful. I'm going to get to that destination. I'm going to be a millionaire many times over. I'm going to support the community. I'm going to do all these things. I know that's coming. Mm-hmm. Today is really, really hard. The other thing
difficult.
The other thing that I think, tomorrow might suck even worse.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is important, back to relationship capital from the first part of the episode, having relationship capital with someone so they can have the honest conversation of, hey, I know you saw this. I know that if circumstances were different, you'd crush it. But you're at a point now you may need to go get a job. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Someone that you implicitly trust, that's not a family member, that's not your spouse, that's not one of your kids, that can look you in the eyes and say, you're failing, it's time. Mm-hmm. And someone that can say it to you in a way that you can receive it. Because not everybody watching the show is going to crush it in entrepreneurship.
No. And entrepreneurship is so broad. You come at this having had a career, right? A corporate career.
25 years, yeah.
So when you say, if someone says, go get a job, presumably the job that you can get is one that supports your family at a rate that everyone's comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right? And there are a lot of entrepreneurs, some of the people watching are going to be a little more on my end of it, which I didn't come from the corporate world. I did have a construction company. Like if I went, I'm not sure what job is out there for me that would afford me a lifestyle that works, right? So like, let's say you're a little shop owner and you've never done anything other than that, and that's not going well, and the alternatives to doing that are a job that don't meet your needs and don't pay the bills. Like some people, that's not quite the option, right?
I interviewed a woman, Chris Shipley. The book was called Adaptation Advantage. Well, that was really hard. That was a long time ago.
Adaptation
And she
Advantage.
talked about the people that are going to be successful in the future are the ones that can adapt. I've got a 25-year history in sales and marketing.
Yeah.
If I've got to go into a manufacturing facility and work on a line, if I'm adaptable, I'm going to succeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I will figure it out.
Yeah.
The thing, so this is, I apologize. I knew I was going to do this at some point because there's a topic I want to talk about.
Pre-apologizing.
And
I like it.
as a guy that owns his own podcast, I'm like, when do I do this? The other thing that's hard about entrepreneurship, for those that are watching that have a full-time job today, is social media. When I talk about my book, when I worked for a company, talked about writing a book or talked about the podcast, they wanted me solely focused on them.
Yeah.
Their
and
business.
Their business and their narrative. Now, what's interesting to me is so many people say, I'm not counting hours. I just want you to do the job until I post about the book or until I post
Then
about
you're
my
not giving
podcast.
them your full attention.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, I won't name names, but when I started the podcast, I was working for a company. My boss knew about the podcast. He knew that I read the book and I interviewed the guest. And when do you interview the founder of Reebok? Whenever it's convenient for the founder of Reebok.
Yeah.
That oftentimes
Exactly.
was
that's when.
the middle of the day.
Yeah.
But I always got the job done. What I realized was the CEO of that company, it wasn't about getting the job done. It was about getting the job done and working the 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week and the perception. So I think if I own a shop and have a full-time job and once a month someone calls in sick and I got to call in sick to go work at that shop and I leave my full-time job for the day, that's going to have an impact.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't, and it's frustrating, but we have to acknowledge that corporate America, private equity, venture capital, they want you in your seat 8 to 10 hours a day, focusing on nothing but them.
Yep. Which is what makes that world so scary to me. Like it's one I've never really been able to venture into.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You got to go. I wrote my business plan about 3 years before I left that company, but I had created a situation in which I could be very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And that because I knew that I wasn't corporate material because I don't follow rules well.
That's pretty universal, I think, amongst most entrepreneurs.
And really, in a sense, all of that being a disadvantage while you're working for someone is a huge advantage when you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Like, don't follow the rules and make sure you push boundaries and understand where you can be innovative and where you can't be, right? And, just being yourself, but you have to be careful when I'm thinking about, a lot of times people are like, well, I don't want to be myself because then like I say fuck every couple minutes or I say whatever, right? And in a sense, that's why this panel that I was talking about the other day, it was a bunch of women on the panel, right? And we were all like, they were asking us questions on the panel, like what's the key to your success or what, who has influenced you the most? And it may be because it was a bunch of women, but we were talking about taking care of ourselves, right? And that thing, if you're going to be yourself, if you're going to be the authentic self that you want to be as an entrepreneur, you really need to take care of yourself,
Yes.
right? You need to be present about who you're being in each moment, so that if you're being transparent and authentic, you're not expressing something that has been a barrier to you in your life, or that you're using a crutch, in which was a protection device for you in your life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mental gymnastics that really need to happen if you're going to be authentic and transparent and still draw people in to buy something from you, or to have you be their speaker, or to have you listen to you on the podcast. They need to know that you have done the work on yourself, that you're being authentic, and that's fairly obvious, but you're not doing it through a screen.
Yes.
You know, I think about, no mentioning names, but there are certain radio hosts that have made a big name for themselves as being their authentic selves, but it's about being mean, and it's about being oppressive, and it's about being judgmental, right? And they've made a ton of money doing that, but then all of a sudden their authentic self sneaks out in the news or something like that. I think authenticity in this day and age is much different than it used to be. I
think we're craving it.
I think we're craving it. You know,
Like
we talked a
genuine
little bit
people
about the Great
real-
Awakening, you
Yeah.
know, like the other day. And, you know, a lot of this is like, I believe in the Great Awakening, sort of, you know, like grain of salt, you know, sort of thing. But I do feel a part of, I don't think I've ever felt comfortable saying to anyone, let's be our authentic, transparent self, or let's let the universe guide you toward a vision, or and all of a sudden I feel really comfortable saying that to a lot of people.
You know, it's interesting.
Right?
I had a friend give a keynote, phenomenal keynote, and I used the word at dinner, authenticity. She goes, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as authenticity. She goes, there's husband Eric, there's dad Eric, there's coworker Eric, there's entrepreneur Eric. And I have sat on that, November will be a year, so almost a year, I've sat on this conversation. Great takeaway. It was definitely a challenge. She left a mark. What I realized was, most of us, she's right. Most of us have 5 or 6 authentic versions of ourselves, depending on the environment we're in. What I have found is I'm just the same guy everywhere. You don't have, I'm a vulnerable, open book, whatever at home. Mm-hmm. So that's who you get at church, and that's who you get at work, and that's who you get on an airplane, and that's just who I am, and you don't have to like me.
I get it. We all have personas.
Yeah, I mean, I understand
You know,
the
if I'm
concept.
talking to my mom, I'm going to be a different kind of authenticity.
Sure.
If I, you know, because I don't want to hurt her or her feelings, or, you know, something like that. I mean, you carry a persona that is, and that's very good to be aware of. I
Yeah.
love the challenge that she did. That
Yeah, no, it's great.
Let's spend the next year of me thinking about that and bringing it back in next November. I love that challenge. If I don't feel uncomfortable, if I'm not like, you know, standing outside the door, okay, now you have to be Juliet the podcaster right now, right? If I'm not doing that, then I feel really good about being authentic.
Yeah.
If as we're talking, you've inspired me in a way that I want to be grateful for and build on,
Yep.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody might not like it. Somebody might really like it. And that's when you know you're being authentic. Like you're out there. You're not talking through a barrier. You're not talking through something that used to protect you or does protect you. You're able to be that.
Yeah.
And really being authentic means that you can say, I totally fucked that up. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Right? Or I shouldn't have said it that way. Or
Well, that has to be a part of it.
it has to be a part of it. And we have to be able to forgive other people for that. That's how we learn together.
Yeah. And grow.
You know, I really wanted you to explain your business.
Sure.
At some point, you and Cameron, what you have created, because I think it's so niche-y And I think my initial impression has not changed, right? My initial impression is that is freaking brilliant.
Yeah, we didn't get into it, did we? I don't have any idea what you do.
Well, you didn't do your homework, but that's...
No, he doesn't do his homework.
My homework is not doing the homework.
So there are a few, basically we support the supplier community in the software as a service space. So think of companies like
give me some
Comcast or Lumen, formerly CenturyLink, Vonage. These folks, many of whom don't have direct sellers, they sell through a series of entrepreneurs, companies like yourself that are just a solopreneur, all the way up to companies that have hundreds and hundreds of employees. So what has happened is the community of sellers, because private equity found us a couple of years ago, they have evolved. They look and feel a little different than they did 5-6 years ago, because private equity, many of them are looking for an exit. Many of them are in their 50s, started a business 20-30 years ago, didn't have an exit strategy. Now the financial world wants to give them a nice exit strategy.
Okay.
So that segment of the business has evolved. The supplier community has actually gone the wrong direction. When I started in this industry 25 years ago, flew to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I went to training for a couple of weeks. Learned how to sell, learned how to do all of the things inside this company's system and outside. What's expected of me? What does the CRM look like? Those don't exist anymore because companies move faster. We're hiring experts. You've been in the industry a long time. Just go. Here's your computer. The problem is that we got to bring in new people to the industry to continue the evolution of the industry. And these younger individuals still need to go through sales training and marketing training and industry best practices. And many of us that have been around for a long time have forgotten what those were because we did that 25 years ago.
Sure.
So we have started a consulting practice where we support the suppliers, the Comcasts of the world, sales, marketing, operations, but not just at a corporate level. We do all of that at a managerial level, but we take the individual sellers for these companies through the masterclass that we're building to teach them best practices, because people...
Where do these sellers live? Where do they exist in the world? You know, what... Comcast is so big.
Yeah.
And when you say, you mentioned like 3 giant telecommunication companies.
Yeah.
When you say we're training the managerial staff or the sellers, where are these people? Like
everywhere.
Who are they selling to?
They're selling to businesses from, locally, Delta Airlines to, the corner store right up the road.
Okay. And they're selling the service of...
in this case, Comcast.
Comcast, yep.
So what has happened is I've become a successful entrepreneur. I've got tens of millions of dollars coming into my business every year, but I want to hire these kids out of college and teach them how to have the same success, except those programs don't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. The Comcasts of the world don't offer training programs.
Okay.
So what we have built is a mechanism to train the newbies to the industry, because the industry continues to evolve. It's about a $3.5 trillion industry opportunity. And again, those of us that have been doing it for a long time forget how to do it. And the fundamentals have changed. Yeah. How do you communicate with people? Why is LinkedIn important? Do I pick up the phone? Do I send an email? We just went to an event. Marketing's going to take care of it, right? I don't need to follow up. There's all these rules, and we're teaching people how to play more effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so far outside the realm of what I understand that I would have a million questions for you to
No, but I think it is. I think it's really good, because it is true that they're trying to hire, companies like that are trying to hire salespeople on, kind of have them learn as they go, right? Like pair them up with a...
Just team up with someone.
Pair them up with someone. You'll learn together, and then they will pass off the accounts to you. Well, you're learning only what that one salesperson is doing, and maybe your manager is advising you, but you're not learning the fundamentals of what those actions mean so they can self-own them in their own personality,
and
right?
You got to learn where some of the technology came from. Like, we're doing it today this way, but you got to know why we did it the other way and the way we were doing it, so you understand how the industry's evolved. What we realized along the way is that we were creating a new category. We were doing something that no one else was doing. There's an opportunity with about 2,000 prospective clients, let's call it 2,000 software as a service clients. The opportunity is enormous. There's tens of thousands of sellers. We just need to build everything because it's never, ever been built before. ChatGPT helps. AI helps. These platforms, we showed you our job board. What has happened was we were going to go consult for all these companies. And then people started calling us looking for jobs. And that was complementary to what we were already doing, because we wanted the suppliers like Comcast to hire really good people.
Yeah.
We needed to connect the dots, so we put a job board together. And then the master class was this natural evolution, because Cameron and Eric don't scale, but a master class does.
Yeah.
So we can put all that content. And you know what? Not only do we not scale, and the master class does, but that's how you prefer to learn.
Absolutely.
So we're going to meet you where you want
to be.
Yeah, and that evolves constantly. You have to keep creating those classes and updating them.
But you brought something up earlier. Wouldn't it be great if our clients told us what they needed?
Yeah.
So now we have this master class, and then you reach out to us and say, hey, I can't find a video on X.
Right.
Oh, that'll drop next week.
Something's changed in 6 months, and I need a video that doesn't exist in your platform.
But our clients are telling us what they want.
And then if they do it for that client, they've done it for all of them.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that part I understand. Now you're getting into a world I
I think you totally would understand, and it's in that I'm curious about the data about turnover in salespeople, because it seems to me that's one of the positions that turns over quite often, sales positions.
Yeah.
And so not only are you filling a need for the candidates, but I have a feeling you'll fill the need for the clients as well. So if they have someone who's taken your master class, maybe we would call that a certification.
We call it a certification.
Right.
And, having the concepts of, the fundamentals of sales. I working with many clients on this level would feel relieved that they would have someone coming from something like that.
Well, the upside is when we're certifying these people, they're taking the initiative as salespeople to go get certified. So they've got a little financial skin in the game, but they've got a lot of time invested in becoming certified. So all things considered, would you rather hire someone that is certified or that is not? It doesn't matter what the certification is. Sounds like I probably want someone that is certified. The category creation piece has been challenging, because now we've got to go tell a story that's never been told before. But watching the industry embrace us, as someone that's been in the industry for 25 years, Cameron's been doing this for 20 years. We're on LinkedIn. We have built the persona online to be seen as thought leaders.
Yep.
To where when we go to these trade shows, we get people reaching out to us saying, hey, I need to meet with you. We're doing something wrong. And oftentimes the reason your salespeople are short-term employees or shorter than other departments is because we're measuring the wrong activities. I'm only measuring what you closed won this month and what you're forecasting for next month. I want to know, how many doors are you knocking on? How many times are you picking up the phone? How many discovery meetings are you having? And when we start, we've got I think a 21-page document just on how to build a CRM so you can manage the right activities. So I can catch you 3 months in and say, hey, I've noticed there's a missing link. If we fix it now, I think you'll be here a year from now. What I'm telling you is there's a gap in the sales process. Let's fix it. But we're not measuring this stuff right now.
And how specific to an individual company are these, or how broadly universal are they?
So, I would say, I would like to think they are individualistic, but it's basically the same for probably everyone across the globe in sales, we're not measuring the right metrics.
Right.
When we start to measure the right metrics, I realize the two of you are both failing in sales right now, but for two very different reasons. You don't tell a great story. And we see that because you can get a meeting like nobody's business, and then you get to the discovery meeting and everything falls out.
Yeah, this
You,
is
on the other
hypothetical,
hand,
right? He's not like reading.
I know. How does he
my
know
fucking
that?
mind?
Maybe.
Jeez.
But when she's out and you take her calls for the week, you close everything that you touch.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is you're hitting on something that's actually very accurate with this. And I don't actually have the language to kind of articulate what is going on, but there's a portion of sales that I'm really good at, and then there's a portion of it that I'm not. And I don't know what those things are.
Building out your CRM, learning how to tell the story, but even the elevator pitch. I mean, so many people in our industry, their elevator pitch is the product that they sell. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not an elevator pitch. That's a product pitch.
Right.
You asked me, give me the 5 second on Eric. The elevator pitch is I'm a keynote speaker and a best-selling author. Mm-hmm. What that's intended to do is have you say, tell me more. What book did you write?
Exactly.
What's it about? So our elevator pitch is we help suppliers drive revenue and relevance in the industries that they serve. Mm-hmm.
All right.
You want to drive relevance and revenue.
Then that draws
Tell me
the
more.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, this is like a whole class I need to take.
You could get certified.
I'll send you a link and you can get certified.
Let me get certified.
Okay, so we always end our show with a big idea, right?
Okay.
So what about this idea asks for an idea?
And this can be, you can either have one in your mind. I'm giving you a little time to think here.
This is good.
Yeah.
I end my show similarly and nobody knows it's coming.
Okay. Yeah. It can be something that you've been thinking about forever. It can be something that'll never happen because it's just too wild, or it can be something very, tangible, very real. So, an idea, a big idea.
2 really big ideas. One is simple and few will do it. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Don't send the email, pick up the phone. I know this sounds silly because we like to check things off our list and I have to send you an email. I have to communicate something to you. So I'm just going to send an email, which means now it's off my plate and on yours. But I can pick up the phone and I can get the answer and we can move down the field a little bit faster.
Oh, yeah. No kidding.
No, I'm a huge advocate of getting on the phone, or better yet, face to face.
Maybe not a big idea, but I would say the next one which is embrace AI. It's not going anywhere. It's not cheating, depending how you use it. I am of the belief that the next iteration of AI is going to be our own, where we're building our own large language models that are unique to us. One for Eric Brooker, one for the channel advisors. So when you put AI to work, you're putting it to work speaking your language to your audience because it knows your language because you fed it. As an example, I have my own AI that has everything I've written in the book is text in its knowledge base. So when I ask it a question, it's giving me that answer.
It references your own.
I know,
words
and you can set those up now, chatbots and things like that, but they're not, like, to know how to properly set up a chatbot right now it's not easy, right? In fact, I know I can set up a chatbot about Avidage and Devine Fox and who I am, Juliet Fox, right? I could do all of that, but I don't do it because it's a learning curve and I don't right now have time for that, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be automated for me in no time and everybody else. So
yeah, I mean, those two things, I hear so much about this. We have a show called Ask Clever Over Coffee, How AI Built This. So we have a show on AI that is not ours. Yeah. It's hosted by John Marino and Billy Darkenwald, and it's great. And they have people in and they talk about the future of AI all the time, and I get to listen in and I'm learning all of these things about it and I find it super fascinating. But on the other hand, we've got shows that like this where we have to talk, or Val's show that's about death and dying. But anyway, you said two things: embrace AI and learn to talk to people.
Yep.
This is where humanity is at this crossroads, I think, right now, because there's a part of what's going on with AI that is, we almost can't wait for our AI chatbot to talk to your AI chatbot to get the niceties, the little things out of the way or whatever, so that the deal gets done. But we also crave actual eye contact with other humans talking at the same time.
We look our kids in the eyes an average of 30 seconds a day. We're all craving that eye-to-eye contact.
I think that's what all of this is about, actually.
Yeah,
I've been
exactly.
thinking about, like, why are we deriving so much pleasure from helping people produce shows? Like, does everything we do live on forever, and is every bit of it important? You know, the best thing that's ever happened? No, but people need to talk to each other.
But where AI is ultimately going to go is, I'd rather have a meaningful conversation about a trip, your recent trip to Italy or whatever, than me having to fumble through sending you a link to my calendar. So in the not too distant future, I'm just going to ask AI to send Juliet my calendar link, and I'm not going to do it. So when I pick up the phone to call you, I'm calling you to ask about your trip, how the kids are, how your husband is, all the things that matter, versus the 5 minutes I spend on, hey, did you get my calendar link? Have you found an open time? You know, what works next week? Well, forget the calendar link. Let's do it this way.
Right.
There's functional ways where AI is going to make our lives more meaningful, more interactive.
I don't disagree. I mean, technically, you know, like if we watch any sci-fi forever, they go way back, you know, but Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like little communicators on their chests that went to places and you could ask it to do something. Like this stuff, we've been envisioning this future for a very long time, and I don't see except the apocalyptic chaos versions of this, which who knows, you know. But in all the versions where our expansion of technology produces a brighter future for us, there's still human interaction. There's still the stories of the people interacting are still there.
Artificial intelligence, as two words combined, were first spoken at Dartmouth College in 1956.
Wow.
This is not new.
No, we've been working toward this for a very
Correct.
and theorizing about it and being scared of it and all of the rest
But
of it.
it seems like it came on fast. Sure, we've been talking about it for a
100%.
long time, but
This
the
portion of it
usability
did.
came bam, and
Yeah.
now we're using it, right?
And there's no rules.
There's no rules.
Yeah, we haven't regulated it in any way,
Yeah.
self-regulating. You know, we
Yeah.
haven't done any of our own
Correct.
internal audits of how this works and what it's going
Yeah.
to do and who is it going to mess up. But
What's interesting is we haven't in the United States, but I was listening to a podcast this morning that was talking about the elections and the deep fakes and all the things going on in the United States where Kamala and Trump are, it's not them, it's not their voices, but it looks and feels and smells and sounds.
Yeah.
In other countries, they have put regulations around that where you can still do that.
But you have to say you're doing it.
You just have to say that
Yeah.
you're doing it.
yeah, I mean, we'll figure that part out, I guess, as we go, and we'll probably sow some chaos. Every new thing does
I
for
hope
a
so.
while. Yeah, there it is.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's a good note to end on.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
This was
Eric.
Thank
great.
you.
I mean, here it is. You know, you did it. You sat down and
Talk to
did
us.
an hour and
I'm so happy that
20
you
minutes.
broke outside your own podcast to come and be on ours.
This was great. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah,
thanks
this
a
was
lot.
good. Thank you. A lot of podcasts that we end with, I'm like, this sheds a whole new light on the podcast. You know how your podcast probably evolved?
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like ours is doing it now, and the new space really helps. And of course, the plants are a huge,
I mean, the
huge
decor.
addition. Yeah, I mean, the decor.
When
really
I leave, should I
can't-
take the chair to the person that you borrowed it from?
we still need that chair.
We
Don't
will
give it back
have our
yet.
own stuff soon, I promise.
These are ours. but that chair is not ours. So I just really appreciate it because I feel like this podcast will help us in our evolution of podcasts.
Thank you.
It's already helped me personally, so thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I need to get certified. That's what I found.
That's for sure. Yeah.
I learned something.
Oh, you're certified. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Certifiable. All right. Okay.